We have 3 football games to watch on Saturday, and I'm going to recommend a tasty little 3-way parlay on this slate that I'm really excited about. It'll be a teaser, not to spoil anything. First game that we are going to cover, however, is the Minnesota Vikings at the Cincinnati Bengals. The Vikings are currently the 6th seed in the NFC, so if the season ended right now, they would be going to the playoffs, despite them looking rather horrendous last week in a win, a 3-0 win indoors, which I think is the first time that's ever happened in NFL history. They've had 3-1 scores before, but they've all been outdoors in a torrential downpour, bad wind situation. So this was indoors, climate-controlled environment, and there was 3 points scored in the whole game, which isn't great. But what also isn't great is not having Joe Burrow on your team. The backup, Jake Browning, has been looking pretty darn good as of late. The Bengals are on a 2-game win streak, and Jake is averaging 285 yards per game, and he's got 4 touchdowns and 2 interceptions in his little run here as a starting quarterback for the Bengals. Vegas is thinking that this game is going to be won by the Bengals by 3.5 points, and the over-under is set at 39, which will be the subject, my first part of my 3-game Saturday teaser. I'm going to take the Vikings over, and I'm going to tease it down to 33 points. So I'm going to get 3 points on that teaser, tease the over down to 33 points, because I think it's going to be a high-scoring game. Jake Browning has proven to me that he can score football points. I think this line is a little bit of an overreaction to last week, to the 3-0 game. We got a new starting quarterback, probably Nick Mullins for the Vikings here, which, I mean, some people might say is good or bad. I would say it's good, because if he does throw a lot of picks, then that means the Bengals are going to capitalize and score quickly. And that's really what you need to see, is touchdowns scored quickly if you're getting an over. So that's why I'm going to take that as my first angle. James, what do you think on this game?
Yeah, Jake Browning, the last quarterback to have led Washington to the college football playoff, looking pretty decent. But we all know what happened to Washington once they made the playoffs. They crumbled. And I don't think Jake Browning is very good in high-pressure games. So I have taken the Minnesota Vikings. I think that the Bengals' hot flash is finished, and I like the Vikings.
So that's Vikings money line, your second positive money line out of James. He's full of those, and I don't mind it. I'll say that, but I'm not convinced that Jake Browning isn't like actually good at football. So that's the only thing that's keeping me off of it. Ryan Perry, what are your thoughts on the game?
Give me the Bengals. They've looked that their wins have not their wins have not been fluky. They've taken basically a Jacksonville Jaguar team that's leading in the playoffs, and then they went to Indianapolis, who was also in the playoffs, and handily beat them. It wasn't like it was an overtime against the Jaguars. They had them down 34-14, and one of those 14 from the Colts was a pick 6 thrown by Browning. So I'm going to take the Bengals. I'd also lean towards the over. I think this is going to be more points than people think is going to happen. I think, again, having Josh Dobbs not anywhere near the starting quarterback position for Minnesota is going to do wonders for their point total. But I still think the Bengals will pull this out.
So that's a crossfire between James and Ryan, the first 2 analysts on this show, who I would consider are the more, I don't know what the right word is, analytical brains on the channel.
We are
Andrew. We're the pretty people. Congratulations, man! We got the sweeter roll.
Well, you guys are
with your shampooed hair.
You guys are the interpersonal feeling moods, feeling vibes of the team, and I believe a little bit X's and O's, got good eyes for good athletes is I think where you two excel, which is a little bit different. And then James just cheats because he has a bunch of text messages from current NFL players. Anyways, Andrew, what are your thoughts on this game?
I love Minnesota this week. I'm going to put this down as my lock, one of my locks of the week.
Oh, here we go.
I love Minnesota. Brian Flores coming in is going to blitz, disguise, confuse the shit out of Jake Browning. And you have Nick Mullins stepping in, who hopefully will not be throwing hospital balls to Justin Jefferson, who had a limited practice today. I'm still salty about it. 13 snaps he played while I hoarded this guy for 9 weeks in my prison wallet. I mean, IR, but you know what I'm saying. I'm just super salty about that. But I think the Bengals have fed on some soft defenses, teams that just defensively are not that creative. They're going to get the heat from Flores because this run that the Vikings have been on have really been led by their defense, a reconnaissance, a renaissance. Excuse me.
So there we go. So we got 2 bets on the Vikings. Lock of the week for Andrew. That sounds like a gimmick that will be repeated again in future episodes. Excited to see how the locks of the week go. Mr. Miles, what are your thoughts on this game?
I just don't believe in the Bengals or Jake Browning as much as you and Ryan seem to. Even with Joe Burrow, they seem to be very inconsistent at best throughout the season. I understand the Vikings just came off of a very abysmal game, but I see this being a bounce back week for the Minnesota Vikings. I really like that money line because I think that there's a good chance they are going to come out and show out. And I just don't see what you see in Browning, to be honest.
Okay, so that is another one against Jake Browning and on the Minnesota Vikings. A lot of crossfire, and I'm glad I kept myself clear of it. I'm going to take the sideline on this one and just hope for a lot of points, or at least enough points to keep me alive to the 3:30 game, which is the Pittsburgh Steelers against the Indianapolis Colts. The game is in Indianapolis. I have here the Steelers are currently the 6th seed in the AFC. So again, another surprising team that's for some reason still alive and currently in the playoffs. Trubisky averaged 5.4 yards attempt with Kenny Pickett being out. Kenny Pickett on the season, by the way, 6.4 yards per attempt. So a little bit of a step back from Kenny Pickett, who had Matt Canada as his offensive coordinator for most of the season. So not good so far out of MVP Mitch, Nickelodeon's Most Valuable Player Award winner, Mitch Trubisky in Pittsburgh. The Colts are also currently in the playoffs. They would be the 7th seed in the AFC if it all ended today. Minshew, by the way, is averaging 6.7 yards per attempt. He's got 11 touchdowns and 8 interceptions. So kind of up and down for him. Vegas, the gambling lines have it Colts -2.5. We just saw the Pittsburgh Steelers really, really suck last week and look totally pathetic. And what do we say? Whenever that happens, a man gets to work, Mike Tomlin in Pittsburgh, and figures out a way to make something happen next week. And for that reason, I am going to take a long teaser or an advantage teaser and take 2.5 up to 8.5 and combine it with my first over 33.5, taking the Pittsburgh Steelers here up to 8.5 on the second leg of my 3-part Saturday guaranteed to hit teaser. James, what do you think?
Yeah, I think this is a big bounce back week for the Steelers. Mike Tomlin, not the man to mess around. You might see him out there on special teams again making plays. I've definitely got the Steelers in this one. I think for sure they bounce this week against a Colts team that I'm much lower on than I am with the Steelers. Both still surprised that they might make the playoff. But if I had to pick one of the two, it would be the Steelers, and I'll take that plus.
So it feels like you and I on a lot of these are pretty simpatico on a day where both of us came in feeling very good about this slate for whatever reason compared to past slates. So that's interesting, and I don't know how to feel about it, James. Ryan,
could be
what
great,
do you think?
could be horrible.
Could be horrible, could be also mediocre. So I guess we'll see. Ryan, Perio, what are your thoughts on this game?
I'm also leaning the Steelers. I just think without Jonathan Taylor in that backfield that Zach Moss has kind of lost a little steam. being the lead back. He's not really getting the yards that he did like the first couple of weeks, like when he had AR-15 Anthony Richardson back there with him. I think it was a surprise running back, and now that people are actually keying on him, he's not productive. So I think the Colts have just run out of juice until Jonathan Taylor gets back in that backfield. So give me the Steelers and their defense and the money line.
So that's another bet on Mike Tomlin, bounce back. We've seen it so many times. He's becoming a little bit too predictable for us gamblers at
Blame
home.
Canada to quote South Park the movie.
Hell yeah, dude.
Andrew, what are your thoughts on the game?
Do we know if TJ Watt's playing this game? I think last time I heard he was in concussion protocol.
I believe TJ Watt is expected to play concussion.
Because
This is Tuesday, so we're only going to be able to speculate. Reviewing TJ Watt concussion protocol. So it's up in the air. We'll say here. We try to speculate a little bit on injuries sometimes on the channel. It's really hard to tell on Tuesday night is when we record. So
my gut tells me I need to roll Pittsburgh here because of the Tomlin rule. However, my eyes tell me this team feels like they're on the verge of a mutiny. They seem very unhappy. They're just a very unhappy team. Like they hate.
They live in Pittsburgh, bro. Like
that's also true. That's also true.
I was gonna say it feels like that's kind of been the MO for the Pittsburgh Steelers like forever. And they'll look horrible, and their body language will look like shit. And then Mike Tomlin will just get the boys going on a Week 15 game that's somehow meaningful for the organization because they've just willed this team to a substantial playoff position currently. And here we are. So I don't know. That's how I feel about it. Go ahead, Andrew.
I'm thinking I'm going to do a stay away because I just don't know. It's too much uncertainty. My gut really tells me I need to take the Colts here because I feel like the whole world is going to jump on Pittsburgh in the 2.5. It feels trappy, which means I need to take the Colts. Yeah, I know they're at home. It's only 2.5, but it feels trappy to me. So
okay, so that's a gut lean for Andrew. The first gut lean recommendation out of him this week. Miles, what do you think?
I think the most consensus we've had on this podcast so far is that both the Indianapolis Colts and the Pittsburgh Steelers kind of suck this year. And that's why I think that the smart money is on the under 42. I think that the Mike Tomlins will find a way to win. I just don't think it's going to take a lot. And there's why I think 42 points is not going to happen during this game.
Okay, I kind of like that, Miles. I like that you looking at that, surprisingly a little bit high, maybe 3 points high than I was expecting going into it. I love that recommendation out of you, Mr. Most Days Off. Moving on to the third part of our leg, the Saturday triple parlay teaser. The Denver Broncos are going into Detroit, and they're playing the Lions. Lions are still currently the 3 seed in the NFC, and they have a pretty solid hold of the division after the Packers lose to Tommy DeVito and the Giants on Monday. Detroit has been giving up 24.2 points per game this season, which is 8th worst in the NFL. And that's kind of been the story of this Lions roster over the past couple of years, has been the defense and lack of efficiency on that part of the football. The Broncos, however, are 7-6, still in the hunt in the AFC. The Broncos' last 7 games: win over the Packers, win over the Chiefs, win over the Bills, win over the Vikings, win over the Browns, lost to CJ Stroud, Tank Dell, and the Texans, and beat the LA Chargers. They are on quite the tear. The Lions are sliding significantly, but they are still a superior team, but not 5-point superior. So that's why for the third part of my leg, I'm teasing the Broncos to keep it somewhat close, up to 11 against the Detroit Lions. I'm taking the Steelers up to 8.5, and I am taking the Vikings and the Cincinnati Bengals team or total game over 33 in my Saturday triple teaser. James, what do you think about this game?
Yeah, I think I've been very impressed with what the Broncos have done as of recent. I would put this line at probably a plus 170 if I was making the line. So I like 200. Once again, the Denver Broncos have been my biggest money line winner on the year. Hit them twice, so why not thrice? Let's go Denver Broncos, and let's see if this team can really finish into the playoffs. I think they're going to pull out a lot of stops for this game. I think that secondary is looking fantastic. And if you can just key in on the run, it could be pretty good game for the Broncos. And I think they can definitely pull it out.
So that's us agreeing again on this slate. Maybe we're just talking too much with each other, or maybe we're onto something this week. I cannot wait to find out. Ryan, what do you think about this game?
I'm taking the Broncos, but not to win, but I'm taking them +5. I think I think the Detroit can win this game, but I don't think it'll be by a touchdown. I think this is going to be a close game. I think Jared Goff and that receiving core is really trying to figure it out. It's been not ideal for them the last couple of weeks since Thanksgiving. It seems like either something's been found on film or there's something going on, because it just seems like that they just seem like a totally different offense, or defenses have just keyed on something and they haven't been able to figure out what it is. But it just seems like it's just a massive turnovers and just, poor decision making. I don't know if it's, something's been shown and they're just reeling, trying to figure out what they're keying away to the defense. But give me the Broncos at +5. I think even if the Detroit wins, I don't think they'll win big. I think Denver will cover.
Yeah, be a close game. I think this is the first time I'm betting against Dan Campbell and the Lions this season. And I think last week was my first time betting on the Cowboys. I think the week before that, the first time I was betting on the Steelers in my whole career. And I think when I bet on a team for the first time, the football gods shine upon me for spreading out my gambling.
Watch those kneecaps around Dan Campbell.
Yeah, I'm not going to say shit around him. I believe it's Miles' turn. What do you think about on this game, buddy?
I hear a lot of what you guys are saying about the Denver Broncos, and I see it and I believe it. It's been incredible watching how much they've turned around since midseason. This is the team that took like 70 points from the Miami Dolphins back in like week 3 or whatever it was. They've been incredible in the second half. But Jared Goff is a different human being when he plays in Detroit than when he plays on the road. And that just is facts across the board. If you look at their schedule, I think they've only lost like twice at home this season. And this feels like after a very embarrassing week for Jared Goff, playing against the Chicago Bears in Chicago and doing a very poor job of it. I really feel like this is going to be hey, we're still competing. We're still at the top of this division. We're still playoff bound. I feel like this is a Jared Goff week coming back. And while I think it's going to be a good game, even maybe to the point that I feel like maybe we should be looking at that over as well, I like the Lions on this this game.
Wow, that's very, very interesting. And that's what I'm saying. These are the Miles and Andrew. These are the vibe guys. These are the guys that are figuring out emotionally where the team is.
Hard about it for it to be a no-brainer, because there's a lot of things that went into consideration on that. But it really does feel Jared Goffy to me.
When you always have no-brainers when it's all feelings.
Yeah. Speaking with your heart. Moving on to the Sunday slate, noon on.
Wait, we got Andrew. We got to get to.
Oh, I didn't say Andrew. Okay, go ahead, Andrew.
I love the Lions this week. This is a kitchen sink game. They're going to throw everything at the Broncos. I expect at least one flea flicker, or maybe a wide receiver pass. I also expect the running back, the Pony Express of Gibbs and Montgomery, to run it hard and heavy against the Broncos. This line, again, it feels off. Are the Broncos should they really be a 5-point dog? No. It should be closer by 4, if not 3.5. But the number is thrown out there to grab money on the Broncos. I like the Lions here.
Okay, so you think the line should be 3.5 for the Broncos, but you're still taking the Lions?
Yeah, because I'm like, to me, it's like, hey, it's eye candy. Come, look at these big ass titties. I mean, the Broncos. But really.
Wait, what type of safari have you been going on? Because it does not look that interesting to me.
Don't know if that's a safari or a bad part of town.
Where the hell else are you gonna see a lion, my dude?
I'm glad we got to you, Mr. Andrew. That was a pretty interesting take on this line. And yeah, so we got 2 on the Lions. I think we got 3 on the Broncos. So that's a big crossfire one for us to end that Saturday slate.